Hello and welcome to another Scottish mountain walking guide. Today's walk starts at the Glencoe ski centre car park and includes two Munros, Meall, Bhuiridh and Creise. I recorded this walk the day after the previous episode, and if you watched that video to the end you'll have seen the rain. It rained like that all night. Fortunately it stopped around 8 AM, and once the clouds had cleared in the morning it was a beautiful day. The ski centre has 4 camper van pitches, they're with power hookups, and that's where I stayed the night. There's also a campsite so you can stay overnight in a tent, and you can also stay in the car park in a camper van for £5 for the night. The car park itself is around 2 hours drive from Glasgow. As always, I've included links in the description to the route on OS Maps and the parking on Google Maps. Parking is £2 for the day, and there are donation boxes around the car park. There's probably space for a couple of hundred cars, and there's also a cafe on site. The total distance for today's walk is 10.8 kilometres, with around 1130 metres of ascent. It is expected to take around 5 hours to walk, and you could purchase a chairlift ticket and skip the first section of the walk. The higher up chairlifts were not in operation at the time of recording. This video was recorded in the middle of July. So starting at the car park, you follow the path and it goes up close to the chairlifts, and it's quite obvious, it's well signposted at the bottom. And you go up, it's like a porta cabin sitting here, a little cabin of some sort. You walk up past that and the path goes round to your right as you go past it, and there's a clear sign and it has a little bend, and then it goes up. And you just keep following this. There's a number of streams and there's little bits of crossing and some little zigzags from time to time. So you'll be going up beside the chairlift, and as you get higher up it starts to level off a little bit. You can see that the lines between the different gradients are getting further apart, and when it starts to level off you just got to keep an eye out, because you'll come to a main road, and when you hit that road you're going to turn right. Now the most direct way is just a little bit after you go over a rather bendy metal bridge, is to go immediately to the left. But I wanted to get a nice view of Buachaille, and so I kept following this path up, and you keep going up, and it's quite a clear path here. You'll see a big cairn around about here. You go on a little bit and it takes you to this summit here. From this summit you can see across the Stobderg there in Curved Ridge. And I got some nice views, and I'll show that in the video. It was actually also a little bit easier, I felt, walking across here, because this bit goes through a little bit of a boggy section and it's a bit twisty and turny, I think, as you're avoiding the worst of the water hazards. But you do increase in altitude to come up to this little summit here, so you can make your choice. I never saw this path, and it's on the map, but I was looking out for that one. That was the one I was going to take, and I never saw it. So continue across here. As you're walking across here, certainly when there's no cloud, it's very clear and obvious where the path is going, and you're going to head in the south direction at this point. And it's a big grassy hill, that's how it looks from this angle. As you climb up that hill, you get a bit further up, and then it becomes more rocky. The path also got a little bit vague, probably somewhere around here. You just keep working your way up, keep going south. Eventually you'll start to see a series of cairns. And once you spot the cairns it's quite obvious where the path is, and it's much more defined at that point. You keep working your way up. None of this is very difficult. There's very slight sections of scree, but nothing much, not that you notice. And you'll eventually come to the summit of Meall Bhuiridh. And on the day that I was there, you did get some quite amazing views across here. This is very, very steep and very cliffy, and it was quite impressive. And the ridge itself that joins between the two, it's like a plateau over here almost. Between these two, it looks like something quite daunting to cross over. And you can't see down because of the steepness and just the angle of it. You can't see where you're going, so you have to make your way down to see where to go. But this path is quite easy to walk along and down. Very slight scrambling required here, but it's very easy. It looks a lot worse from further away, but it's just a couple of big steps, and occasionally you might need to put your hands on a rock. I did find going up this section there was more than one route, and actually the less worn routes seem to be easier. So the most worn paths seem to have the bigger steps and be slightly trickier to scramble up, but nothing difficult, nothing exposed. But I went round a little bit to the left on the way up, and I basically just walked up. It was when I was coming back down I was going to follow the main path, and there were some big steps and just a little bit more awkward, so you just take your time, work your way up through this, it's not difficult. Once you get to the top here, it gets very flat, as you can see from the contours on the map. And it's quite a rocky patch to cross, going across here. So there's not a very obvious path to follow, but you just go along, keeping the steep drop to your right hand side. Just keep to the left of that as you're going across. And then further along the path becomes more clear, and eventually you make your way to the summit of Creise. Now Creise, the summit is the first top you come to. I've noticed a lot of people went across. There's another top further along, and they went along to that top. So I made my way a little bit to the north. Again, just looking to get good views across to Buachaille more. For this walk, I retraced my steps. So I just went back down, back up and over Bhuiridh, and then back down the same path. When I came to this point here, I did go the more direct route across, and then made my way back down the path to there. I had a look at following this path here, and there's a clear path all the way to this point, but after this point I couldn't see any clear. I didn't walk to the end, but on the maps and looking on the internet I couldn't see if there was a clear path to come down, and it is quite a lot of craggy area here. What I did read is that people climb up this way, especially here, go up this one here, and it's a nice sort of grade 1, grade 2 scramble up to this top here, and then from there it's an easy walk round to the summit. So maybe in future I'll start from the car park and you work your way around here and then go up that route. But for today's walk you simply descend back down the way you went up. And that is wet. Good morning. I'm at the Glencoe ski centre car park. A beautiful view of the Buachaille over there. It's a glorious morning. It's a little bit later than normal, 9:40. Those thunderclouds that I talked about on last week's walk, they actually went all through the night, and it only stopped raining about 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier. So we're going to go up the line of the chairlifts over there. And then we'll go up to the right hand side a little bit and climb Meall, Bhuiridh. And then we'll keep going on and climb Creise. Should be quite a short walk, probably take about 5 hours. Another good thing about this car park is there are showers that are open 24/7. It's like £1 for 5 minutes, something like that, for the hot water. And the car park is a £2 donation, or £5 if you want to stay overnight at the sort of camper van area over there. I actually stayed in the hookup area. That was £20 for the night, but it did have electrics and it was a nice level parking spot, whereas that open area over there is in a little bit of a slope. I'm sure you can find flat bits, but you'd have to drive around a little bit. So you follow the line of the chairlift. The path zigzags up on the left hand side of the chairlifts. Suppose you could cheat, get a ticket and go up the chairlift. And there's a donation box. They're placed around the car park for your parking fee. So there's one just up here on the side of that hut. This path has some signage to help you find the start of it. It's another sharp, steep ascent at the beginning. Once we get to the top here, it does level off a little bit and the gradient gets a bit easier to climb. One thing to note when you're coming up this section, there is a downhill mountain biking course where, unfortunately, these people are walking. You don't want to walk there. Could end up in a nasty accident. There is signs at the bottom warning you of that. I guess they never saw them. So I'm just at the top of the very first steep section and I'm already at 632 metres. So it's a very quick ascent. The summit is just under 1100 metres, so there's still 500 metres to go. You can see the path, it goes over to the right hand side and it's a glorious day. Eventually you'll come to quite a broad path here that goes directly to the right. So Meall is up there where the cable car goes. So there is a toe that goes quite close to the very summit. So it seems in the summertime only the first stage of the cable car runs. Still gets you a nice view. Probably around 650 metres at the moment. Come to a big cairn and keep to the left. So I actually missed a turn. It's right after that bridge. So after that bridge there's a path that cuts across this boggy section and joins up onto this ridge. When I read the map I thought it was a bit further along, so I kept following this path up to here. But you do get some good views up here. I'm going to go across to that edge there, get a nice view of the Buachaille. So the wind's picked up a little bit when I got to this edge. It's not bad. So there's Buachaille more, and I'm pretty sure I can see Curve Ridge and the Rannoch Wall. So the Rannoch Wall I think is just above the shadow and Curve Ridge is just in the shadow. There's a little bit of shadow going onto the Rannoch Wall now. So I've got a video that shows climbing up that Curve Ridge. I mean, it does involve scrambling and head for heights, and yeah, it could be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So looking at it from this angle, I think that's Creise right in the centre. I've only done this one once before. So we go up Meall, and then from the top you turn right, go along that little ridge. I think there's some little scrambling, I don't think it's too difficult. It takes you up onto that flat edge there, and then you walk all the way up to the summit. So having taken a slight detour, I'm just going to go head straight back across and join the path again. And there is a path here, a lot fainter, not used as much, but easy enough to follow. So So having had a nice little detour and nice flat walk, so a bit of a rest, I've got to go up here. It looks like it's probably as steep as the first section once you get about 2/3 of the way up. I'm at 940 metres. This path isn't too bad, it's easy to follow. It's a big grassy slope. Starting to see a bit of scree now. And there's about 150 metres to the top. The path gets a wee bit vague here, but I can see a series of cairns. So there's one there, one further up. So we'll just head for that and follow that line. So I've reached the summit of Meall or Bhuiridh. Yeah, stunning views in all directions today. Rannoch Moor. Buachaille Moor. And Creise is over there. So we can see Stop Buachaille over there, and Stop Roar is over there, with the wee Munros I ridge right in the centre of it. You can see where we're going to go next, where those two guys are walking. It goes down and along the ridge. I think there's some very easy scrambling just as you get to the top there, and then it's an easy walk along the flat to the summit of Creise. So this is the higher of the two summits by about 10 metres, I think. I could go and look it up. Just checking on the map, it looks about that. There's a Buachaille over there. It looks like Ben Nevis is probably directly behind it in cloud at the moment. You can see the Munros I ridge. So leaving the summit, we're going to go this way. So we're almost heading directly west. It's a little bit south of west, but you go down this ridge. There should be a clear path because there's not really much choice of where to go. And like I say, when you get up the other side, I think there's just a little bit of scrambling near the top. My memory is it felt quite exposed, but we'll see what it's like today. The wind's really picked up now as we go through the pass between the two tops. And it's quite mountainy, quite exposed. Once again, as seems to be the norm, going right down the middle is probably the safer way. You will see some paths go off to the side, but so far it's just straight down the middle. It's nice and easy. Keeping to the middle, the path goes slightly to the left, very slightly to the left. Sorry, well, to the left looking back, to the right coming down. And they're even running along it. Not for me. So that definitely looks a bit scarier from the top than it really is. If you keep to the middle and just walk down, there was no scrambling or climbing, it's just a walk. You'll see signs of wear. Ideally keep to the middle. Some of the bits at the side looked a little bit more difficult than the centre. It's just you can't see what's coming ahead to see how big a drop it is, you know, beyond your view, and there wasn't any big drops. Just approaching the narrowest part of this ridge, and it's fairly broad, but the views are amazing. Assuming you like mountains, of course. Just went 12 o'clock. It's taken about 2.5 hours to get here, and I'm at the lowest point before you start climbing up there. I think I'm going to have my lunch. It's not too windy here. Have a wee rest and then have a look at the map and see if there is an alternative way off Creise going north instead of coming back down and then climbing back up over the top of Bhuiridh. I'll plot it out, and if it's not too much longer, I'll probably go that way. I prefer to go in a circular route rather than retrace my steps if it's possible. Not a bad spot for a picnic. So I'm up onto the flat of the ridge. There isn't any real scrambling on this bit. Depending which way you go, there's different little paths going through the rocks. You might have to use your hands occasionally. And from this cairn, we go round to the right and a gentle walk all the way up to the summit. So that's the summit of Creise. Looking back at Meall Bhuiridh. I'm going to go and get the best view from the top, and that's to head northwest so we get the full view of the Buachaille. So Buachaille Moor, and you can see Ben Nevis behind it, it's cleared up. The Munros I Ridge, and then the other top of Buachaille Moor. You can see Buachaille Beg behind that, and then the Bidian Dam being the big one in the centre now. So I've had a look online and look at the maps, and it's possible to go down this way, and there's some crags and stuff, but it's the same distance as walking back the way we came, and there's some uncertainty about the route over there. I think it would be easier to come up than to actually descend, so I'm going to go back the way I came. Maybe next time come up that way and do it as a round trip. So from the summit I'm going to retrace my steps back along to that cairn, then down that little bit of rocky section, all the way along that ridge, and then up to the top again, and then just follow the track all the way back down. On the way back we're heading all the way around to that little cairn you can see right there in the centre of the frame. And then at that point you start descending. It's another 200 metre climb back up to the other top and all the way back down. I think the car park for this one is quite high, I think it's around 300 metres. So it's not as big a Munro as it would look on paper. At the cairn and the start of the descent down the ridge. There are a couple of different ways of going up and down this, but I found keeping to the left on the way up and the right on the way down is actually easier than the most obvious worn path. It's not difficult either, but you would need to do a little bit of scrambling on the worn path. The other side you can just step up and down with your poles, hardly touching the rock at all. So it's not difficult or exposed. Just starting the final reascent of Meall Bhuiridh. 160 metres altitude to climb to get to the top there, and then from the top you go left down that ridge. Weather behind me is getting a bit grey. The wind's coming from behind me at this moment. Clouds. So that's taken 50 minutes to get back to this top from Creise. I think the OS map time of an hour and a half to get back to the carpark is a bit optimistic. From here, just head a little bit forward and then to the left, and just back down the path we came up. When I came up this morning, I came up directly straight ahead. And that's when I talked about seeing a line of cairns and aim for up to that cairn. But there is a vague resemblance of a path there that I think it's probably easier just to retrace my steps. So that section, that little bit there is a bit vague. But then you come back down and you join another clear path, and once you get further down it gets even more obvious. You'll see the tracks in the grass, and as long as you're heading down straight ahead there, you'll be fine. So coming down there, I went a little bit too far left, so I then worked my way round to the right, and then you can see the path right there. There's a series of blue poles. I think they mark the end of the ski slope area, and you want to be on the right hand side of those poles coming down. Just looking back at Creise, and then across to Buachaille more. So heading down here, when it flattens off we turn to the right. This morning I came from that high point straight ahead and came straight to this point, but on the way back I'll follow the main path, and you can see there's a red arrow telling us time to turn right. So turn right here and follow this path. Just looking back at that meandering path through this boggy countryside, it was actually easier just going up to the top of there and going straight across. Anyway, from here we join back onto the path there ahead, cross that bridge, and just up the other side of the gravel there, path goes down to the left, and you simply follow that path all the way back down to the car park. and just approaching the path that goes off to the left to descend down off the mountain. So once again, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Just going to go down the final stretch back to the car park. And that's me back at the car park. Hopefully there's a shower free. I'm going to get showered. And bye for now.